Welcome to F&I Today. I'm your host, Becky Chernick. I'm so happy you're able to join us today. You know, I've been in the automotive industry for over 30 years and in finance and insurance since 1989. I founded Chernick Consulting in 2001. I provide current and up-to-date best practices in F&I, training, offering workshops, and in-dealership implementation for automotive dealers throughout North America. My goal is to help you to significantly boost profits utilizing innovative upfront sales strategy. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Lately, there has been a lot of talk about whether or not the F&I manager should be using closing tactics with the customer to overcome product objections. Is this crazy thinking or what? How many times should your F&I manager attempt to overcome a product objection? Is there a magic number? 1, 2, or even 3 times? Now, some F&I trainers will tell you once the customer says no to your menu presentation, you just have to move on. Attempting to overcome an objection leads to a bad CSI or a bad taste in the customer's mouth. I believe that there is a line that must be considered, and once you cross over, can lead to missed opportunities. Too much of a good thing is never a good thing. However, overcoming an objection in my book is what a professional F&I manager does. It's part of the F&I process. Not only is the F&I manager responsible for covering the dealership assets, but also is considered a high-paid sales consultant. It is the F&I manager's responsibility to address the customer concerns, or, in other words, overcome a product objection. Overcoming a product objection should not be considered a bad practice unless you are using high-pressure tactics. This is why the interview is essential and plays an important part of what we do. Since I understand, for the most part, that the customer needs through an effective needs analysis, it really does help me to understand what product or products the customer sees the most value in. And trying to overcome a product objection without understanding the customer needs can be an uphill battle. It's a struggle, which leads to precious time spent in the F&I office. And so when I attempt to overcome the customer's objection, it's based on something that I know. So for an example, the customer told me that they're holding onto the vehicle for at least 6 years and that they are driving 15,000 miles per year, and that resale value is important to them. So it stands to reason the service contract would benefit the customer if in the event of a needed repair outside the comprehensive manufacturer's warranty. The service contract would certainly be one of the products the customer sees the most value in based on their needs. I want to establish the reason why the customer didn't take advantage of the product. Was it due to value, or is it a cost concern? Determining the reason behind the objection will often shed light on how best to address the customer concern. However, you have to be careful about beating a dead horse. If after 2 attempts to close the customer on the product, maybe it's best to move on. If you don't know anything about the customer and you're rattling off reasons why the customer should take advantage of your products, this is going to lead to customers backing off completely and likely give you a bad CSI and a big fat 0. Years back, and I'm not patting myself on the back here, I was often referred to as the service contract queen. I wouldn't let the customer leave my office without taking advantage of a service contract come heck or high water. And sometimes the customer would be in my office for more than 45 minutes so I could strong arm them into buying a service contract. Well, I don't have to tell you that those days are long gone. Since then, I have traveled far and wide, and I've come to learn that time means money, and dragging that customer through the mud never wins. The customer should be in your office more than 20, 30 minutes at best if you have done an effective interview. It is about having your ducks in a row. I have my closes down pat, and I'm prepared to share the reason behind the advantage of the product based on the customer needs. The close should be well rehearsed, and it shouldn't sound robotic. It needs to sound natural. Be careful not to be intrusive, or in other words, too much in that customer's face. It's a dialogue with the customer. You aren't telling them what to do, nor are you accusatory in your actions. You are sharing valuable information with the customer. You're a storyteller. You are touching on valuable points that bring home why the customer should see the reason behind taking advantage of the service contract or the tire and wheel, Gap, or any other product. Let's face it, F&I managers get into trouble every time when they don't have a plan or when they haven't practiced their word tracks. I'm an advocate of word tracks. I believe that it's imperative that you have your word tracks down and that you know them inside and out. Nothing is worse than you having that deer in the headlight look when the customer says no and you have no idea what to say or where to go. So the next thing that happens is the F&I manager immediately drops the price of the product like you didn't lose your credibility. The next statement may go something like this. Well, Mr. Smith, if I could reduce the price of the service contract, would you buy it from me today? I have a coupon left and I only get a few during the month. It will reduce the service contract by as much as $500. Or how about if I extend the term to 84 months? Does that work for you? I especially love it when the F&I manager marks up that service contract by as much as $3,000 so they can reduce the price by as much as $1,000 on their first pass. Now, once the customer sees the payment difference, they sign up. Easy peasy. See, these are the tactics that get you into trouble every time. For many customers, dropping your service contract by as much as $1,000 will get you nowhere. You lose credibility immediately. Now, some customers may go for it, but the majority will smell you a mile away. Seriously, folks, if this is the best that you can come up with, then perhaps these F&I trainers are right. Just move on. You likely won't win any brownie points here. And do you really believe the customer won't know what you're up to? Since you know nothing about the customer needs, you didn't take the time to go ahead and do your homework, it's just easier for you to go ahead and cut the price or reduce the payment, extend the term, than win the customer over through effective, thought-out word tracks. So like I said, perhaps this works with some of the customers, but I assure you, it's a tough hill to climb to keep your credibility and profit intact and likely increase the probability of chargebacks. So if it sounds pitchy, it likely is. It's old school. It's not professional. Cost isn't always the reason why the customer objects to your product offering. It might be that the customer just didn't see the value in the product. What is preventing the customer from buying your product? You have to ask the customer the reasons behind the objection to get the customer to tell you how to sell them. You are providing the customer with a valid value proposition to consider based on their concerns. So for an example, the customer will tell you the reasons that they aren't taking advantage of the service contract is because they bought one before and it never covered anything. They aren't telling you it's based on cost or payment. Cutting the price or extending the term, if available, likely isn't going to change their mind. Now and again, you catch a customer asleep at the wheel, but they are telling you they just don't see the value of the product. It's not about the cost. I wouldn't be trying to cut the price of the service contract or even extend the terms. Instead, I would go ahead and share with the customer that we don't buy a service contract hoping to use it. We buy a service contract for peace of mind. If in the event we need it, we have it. The shop price is going up all the time. Vehicles are much more complex than they've ever been before. And if you happen to have a repair, it's likely going to cost you more than it ever did before. So, wouldn't you agree? It's better to have that service contract and not need it than need it and not have it. Isn't that why you have full coverage insurance? You just never know. It's all about peace of mind. You also told me that resale value is important to you. So I'm addressing the actual concern the customer has when it comes to the service contract. Price has no bearing unless, of course, they tell you otherwise. Discounting your products to sell them should be your last-ditch effort to show the customer the value of the product will far outweigh the cost in the customer's mind. Study your word tracks inside and out. Interview your customers. Understand the real reason behind their objections and offer up a valid value proposition that will land you more sales, that keeps your profits and your CSI intact. Overcoming objections is an art. It's not invasive, in-your-face tactics to get the customer to buy your products. It is a thought-out discussion that wins that customer hands down every time. For those of you who are concerned about your performance in F&I, take the CBT Automotive Churnick Challenge, one complimentary single store online analysis, and find out how much opportunity you could be missing out on. And feel free to contact me regarding my consulting services. My specialty is providing F&I training helping auto dealers achieve high levels of performance and profit by improving internal processes that begin the moment the customer touches down on the dealership website and ends with finalizing in-person transactions and F&I. Well, thank you for joining me on F&I today. Be sure to come back next week right here on the CBT Automotive Network for our next edition of F&I Today.